We are now in the danger zone. The numbers will continue to rise. It is the nature of the pandemic. I don't like to, call down the worst. But if we do not get these numbers down, it is likely that the mortality rate could also rise.
As at March 8, there were 460 deaths from COVID-19 and 27,465 confirmed cases, of which 12,178 are active cases.
In this phase of the management of the pandemic, the government has to remain strident. It has to remain resolute in the measures that we have implemented. And I wish to prepare the Jamaican people that if the numbers do not improve, then, as I had said earlier, there are other measures which we will put in place.
Let us collectively do our part to advance this country out of the pandemic. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson and you're watching Jamaica Magazine. Today we look at projects to be undertaken by the Ministry of Finance, explore the use of Geographic Information System in national development, and preserve a few historic artifacts. But first, the news of the day.
The Disabilities Act will protect the rights of all persons with disabilities. And here's a great teaching moment. Every person with a disability, like a deaf or hard of hearing child, for example, has the right to an education with accessible facilities and the support they need. In this case, it would be a teacher who can use the language of the deaf, which is sign language. Visit jcpdja.com. A message from the JCPD, an agency of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, March 11, 2021. More than 100,000 older Jamaicans who are not employed or receiving a pension greater than $1.5 million annually are set to receive $10,000 each under a new government initiative. The conditional cash transfer for the vaccinated CCTV sub-program was announced by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark as he opened the budget debate on Tuesday. It is geared towards persons aged 60 and over. Individuals will also have to be vaccinated, as evidenced by records at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The grant is being facilitated under the $60 billion Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine SERVE program for Jamaica.
There is public interest in ensuring that the vulnerable population is vaccinated. And we also want to ensure that older persons who cannot take up the work opportunities available on the SERVE Jamaica program and otherwise are not a part of, have no formal income, receive a grant.
The transition of the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, to an independent institution is slated to take effect on April 16, 2021. Minister of Finance Dr. Nigel Clark says steps will be taken to bring the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act into effect by then. This will make the BOJ and, in particular, the governor be accountable only to Parliament.
With price stability being the central bank's objective now and into the future, and with the central bank having the power and independence to pursue that objectives with transparency and accountability, households and businesses and investors will make longer-term decisions and more longer-term commitments, which will deepen financial markets, widen the pool of products available, increase financial inclusion, broaden opportunity, and strengthen our economy.
Minister Clark says the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act, which was passed by the Senate in December last year, paves the way for the central bank's modernization. As a result, the BOJ's mandate will be rescoped to focus on inflation target, maintaining required capital, strengthening its governance, transparency and accountability, as well as staggered board appointments. Also coming out of the Finance Minister's budget presentation, $200 million has been allocated to the National Works Agency, NWA, to carry out river training exercises. This is aimed at reducing the probability of flooding and providing employment in critical disaster mitigation work for persons living in rural Jamaica.
They will be involved in removing silt and other material from sections of selected rivers, installing gabion baskets, right? Gabion retaining walls, some people call them gabion baskets, and related activities to improve the water flow.
The provision falls under the $60 billion Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine Serve program for Jamaica. The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, is lauding the government for delivering a growth-oriented, fiscally responsible budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. In a statement this morning, the PSOJ said it welcomed the specific initiatives geared towards digitization, financial inclusion, as well as support of MSMEs and key industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, and export. The PSOJ also cited specific support for the continuation of the set cash component of the CARE program and the prioritization given to the public health and the vaccination program. The announced capital expenditure on infrastructure projects was also welcomed, as were measures the PSOJ says should improve Jamaica's attractiveness as an investor-friendly market. These include the review of costs for the relocation of corporate entities from other jurisdictions, the Large-Scale and Pioneer Industry Act to stimulate investment, and finalization of the new Customs Act. As for the next step, the private sector organization of Jamaica asserts that we must all dig deep to ensure the swift implementation of the proposed measures. It calls on private sector entities to utilize the various benefits and make the investments to start, grow, and enhance their businesses in order to ensure economic recovery and growth is realized as soon as possible. Government is currently undertaking repairs to several aerodromes across the island as part of the aviation industry's recovery from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Transport Minister Robert Montague says that as part of this recovery plan, the Lionel Dempsey airstrip will be resurfaced. In addition, a pilot lounge will be fitted at the Negril Aerodrome, the Ian Fleming Aerodrome will be outfitted with a new fire and police station, and overlaying of the runway at the Ken Jones Aerodrome and proper fencing is expected to happen. The Transport Minister says these all signify government's commitment to building out aerodromes as part of general aviation improvement.
So I want to encourage that, and in doing that we have to fix up what we have. And we have a program of fixing up our aerodromes and putting in facilities for the people who use it.
And finally, the National Council on Drug Abuse, NCDA, has launched its Good Ganja Sense campaign to increase public awareness of the uses and effects of marijuana. The campaign, which had its virtual launch on Tuesday, is slated to run from March to December 2021. It is being implemented by the NCDA in partnership with the Ministry of Health and the University of Technology. Executive Director of the NCDA, Michael Tucker, says the campaign seeks to address the issue of low levels of ganja literacy and dispel the myths surrounding the use of ganja so that Jamaicans make better choices about its consumption.
Successful national studies among the general and youth populations have shown that there's a need to undertake ongoing public education, clarify issues and myths surrounding ganja, especially with the change in legal context.
The range of strategies that will be used includes social media advocacy, radio and television ads, print articles or material, and billboards. Target groups include parents, youth, community leaders, and groups. There will also be an interactive website to strengthen access to scientific and other resources about ganja. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
The Ministry of Finance has outlined projects to be undertaken in the 2021-2022 financial year. From its allocation of $389.5 billion, $12.4 billion will carry out capital expenditures. We break down the figures for you in this feature.
Government has signaled its intent to spend $853.8 billion in the 2021-22 financial year. It comprises $776.57 billion for recruitment of housekeeping expenditures and $54.2 billion to fund capital development projects. It's nearly $20 billion less than the current fiscal year's revised budget of $850.3 billion. While tabling the estimates, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke said the reduction was due in part to lower debt service costs and lower volume of loans to public bodies.
This budget, Madam Speaker, follows a year in which Jamaica experienced the worst economic contraction in its history due to measures required to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
Of the $389.5 billion earmarked for the Ministry of Finance, $272.2 billion will go towards debt servicing. The ministry, which has responsibility for putting together the budget, has also made sure there was adequate provisions to other portfolios for COVID-19 vaccines and maintaining financial stability.
Our task this year is to begin the economic recovery, and we aim for economic recovery to begin this upcoming fiscal year, and furthermore to begin this upcoming April to June quarter. Of course, we're not in control of all variables, but that certainly is the policy intent. Our budget, Madam Speaker, within the strictures with which we have to operate, and to the greatest extent possible, is aligned with this objective.
To support the growth agenda, $60 billion has been allocated for the Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine SURF program for Jamaica. Minister Clarke says $33 billion of that figure will come from the Bank of Jamaica and go to the Consolidated Fund. It's a result of the central bank's requirement under the BOJ Act to distribute dividends to the government whenever it makes a profit.
The government's policy of BOJ modernization is literally paying dividends, Madam Speaker, at a time when we need it most.
As a result, $10.5 billion is assigned to procure special resources for the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Based on the current prices and supply that the Ministry of Health has, we are making provisions for the government of Jamaica to be able to finance the procurement of and the completion of coronavirus vaccination for 2 million Jamaicans, whether it's double dose or single dose, depending on the supplier.
Other areas of focus under SURV include a $31 billion infrastructure program to drive jobs and economic activities, improve productivity, and strengthen resilience. In addition, money is set aside to finance businesses affected by the pandemic, address rural farm roads and productivity increases, and expand Wi-Fi and broadband accessibility. Social support will also be provided to the vulnerable and people who've fallen on hard times as a result of the pandemic. The UDC will receive funds to complete construction of the closed Harbour Beach Park and other activities, and $0.8 billion will be distributed among other ministries, departments, and agencies.
The Serve Jamaica program will provide the foundation for social and economic recovery beginning in the upcoming fiscal year. The full program to be undertaken by the government, Madam Speaker, during the fiscal year 21-22 will be outlined during my presentation of the budget in March.
However, what we know so far is that the Ministry of Finance will spend $12.4 billion on capital projects. $8 billion of it is set aside as contingency provision. This is to support the implementation of new projects that are already approved under the Public Investment Management System but not yet on the budget. To strengthen the business environment, $650 million will be used to carry out projects under the Jamaica Foundation for Competitiveness and Growth. It is funded by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and comes to an end in June 2022. The targets for this fiscal year include the digitization of titling records at the National Land Agency, implementation of a COVID-19 emergency broadband network, and the purchasing and installation of UPS for the application management and data automation Amanda software. Further to that, provision has been made for 20 firms to benefit from debt resolution and/or business, plus disbursement of matching grants to SMEs for supply chain contracts, and development of an inclusive growth index framework, among others. Within the new financial year, the government will continue to improve efficiency, management, and delivery of services within the public sector. Therefore, it will further strengthen the regulatory and governance mechanisms for the public investment management system. It will also support recommendations to streamline public bodies and change management processes within ministries, departments, and agencies. In addition, government will implement a new work permit system at the Ministry of Labour and a licensing and registration system at the Fisheries Division. To bolster its technology platforms, access to the government's fiber optic network will be expanded, data center upgraded, and a national ICT strategy developed. Close to $96 million will be used to install several pieces of equipment by the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, train personnel, develop a township-level risk profile, and complete the community risk profile. This will be carried out under Phase 2 of the Pilot Program for Climate Change, PPCR2, to improve climate data and information management. The 8-year program is scheduled to end in April of 2021 and is being funded by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Resilience is also being bolstered in the agriculture sector and coastal areas. This is to protect the livelihood and food security of vulnerable communities. The work includes installation of retaining wall and artificial reef and reclamation of approximately 18,000 square meters of shoreline. Another target is to complete community disaster risk reduction training and capacity building. Meanwhile, the Technical Cooperation Facility continues with the European Union (EU). Among the targets for the upcoming fiscal year is to evaluate the implementation of the International Public Sector Accounting Standards in 14 local authorities. A final report on training to build trade capacity within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is to be done. The $39.7 million program is being funded by the EU. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, enabling economic growth, strengthening public sector capacity and efficiency, and bolstering resilience.
Up next, understanding the importance of Geographic Information System (GIS) in national development. It's all around us. It influences how we work, learn, live, play, and plan for the future. GIS is the short form of Geographic Information System. It's a computer-based system built to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and display all kinds of spatial or geographical data.
In geography class in high school, persons were taught that in geography, we're able to locate where features are using coordinates. That's the basis of GIS. Knowing where these features are on the Earth's surface and being able to represent that within a computer-based environment where that is seen visually.
So it's a support tool that we use to provide additional extension to any business process.
And with this GIS technology, the government has been mapping Jamaica's course on the Information Highway. Leading that charge is the Land Information Council of Jamaica, LICJ, a mandate held since 1992.
Jamaica is considered the leading country within the English-speaking Caribbean with regards to GIS. We're able to provide direction, policy development.
In addition to coordinating the implementation of a National Land Information Policy Strategy, the LICJ has also been instrumental in developing a national GIS network. And with the foundation set, the Council is now focused on establishing and implementing a National Spatial Data Infrastructure, NSDI. Through that infrastructure, government will be able to capture, manage, maintain, integrate, discover, and distribute spatial data at all levels of society. The LICJ's mandate is executed through its secretariat, the National Spatial Data Management Division, NSDMD.
We provide a lot of technical support to all of these various government agencies that actively use GIS to carry out their mandate. We train these persons. Apart from that, we facilitate conducting GIS needs assessments.
Government is currently the largest user of geospatial and related technologies, and that usage runs throughout government. It's seen in the water sector, transport, disaster management, environment management, national security, education, health, and agriculture. But no other area has seen the proliferation of GIS technology than that of land use and development. At the Urban Development Corporation, GIS is used to streamline operations in various departments, including estate management, business development, architecture, and corporate security.
We're on the road now to our 50th anniversary, and we see GIS as being that enabling tool to provide UDC now with not just the way to make better decisions in development, but also improving UDC's image as a modern entity.
The same is true for the National Land Agency's land titling, land valuation, surveys and mapping, and estate management divisions.
A lot of the business processes that exist within the different divisions have GIS tied into it. So for example, there is no way that somebody can, at present, acquire a new certificate of title without some work happening on the GIS end.
The National Works Agency also uses GIS in project planning, land acquisition, and location analysis.
Everything that we do has a spatial component to it, and it's hard to deny that GIS is going to play a role in all of that.
Cost savings, greater efficiency, faster decision making, improved communication, and better record keeping are all derived from the use of GIS. And the private sector also has been getting in on the technology. Increasing GIS nationwide is also a focus for the LICJ and the NSDMD. To facilitate this, the government has signed an enterprise license agreement with the Environmental Research Institute. That agreement has been a game changer.
It has allowed us to be more efficient, in terms of accessing the data and using it to provide more information and to engage also with the public as well.
What it does is open up a whole new world. So there are almost no limits to what we can do with GIS and improving the way we handle our spatial data as a government.
Public awareness has also been heightened with the GIS Day during Geography Awareness in November. That observation has been staged annually since 2003. In 2017, with the LICJ celebrating 25 years groundbreaking work, there will be a 2-day GIS user conference in October. The conference will focus on national security for sustainable development under the theme Geospatial Technologies, Mapping Our Way to Secure Communities. As we strive to learn more about each other and the world around us, there is no doubt that GIS is the most practical and beneficial tool in this process. As Jack Dangamond, co-founder of the Environmental Systems Research Institute, said, GIS is waking up the world to the power of geography, the science of integration, and has the framework for creating a better future. We invite you to learn more about the GIS User Conference by visiting the webpage at gisuserconferenceja.com. From technology to assist national development to preserving our priceless artifacts, this journey takes us to the Jamaica National Heritage Trust.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the headquarters house, home of the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. We're going to take you through some of the ropes in the methods in conservation, so please come along with us. Thanks for joining us in our conservation lab. We have here working with us Mr. Darrington Ferguson as well as Mr. Frank Gale, and we'll be looking at some of the methods they will be applying to different material types for the preservation of our material culture of Jamaica. First of all, we have here some cannonballs that are usually found with some extent of corrosion. Mr. Ferguson is actually removing mechanically some of the concretion from a cannonball, and after he has removed that, then we would wire it. This wired metal object we would then install in our electrolytic tank. In the process of electrolysis, what we are actually doing, we are primarily reversing the process of corrosion. Once it has been electrolyzed, it would look something like this. So we would then proceed to brush to remove any loose rust that would be left on it. We would then put the iron object in some pure water, which we call deionized water, and that would be heated to ensure that the metal itself would facilitate the extraction of any impurities that might be left in the body of the iron. After that, we would dry the iron object. Most times we dry it in alcohol, and that would remove the water from the body of the object. And after drying, we would take a substance we call tannic acid, applying several coats, and it would form somewhat a stable surface for the iron object. And then the final stage is waxing to provide a coating or a lacquer on the surface of the iron object. Here we have Mr. Gale. He's actually applying orthophosphoric acid to remove slight rusting or corrosion from the case of a sword. He is actually using what we call a chemical as well as a mechanical means of so doing. We have close to it the extractor system, which is used to remove harmful fumes from the atmosphere in order to make the environment a much healthier one in which and a safer one for us to work. Lead corrodes by forming mainly lead sulfide and lead carbonate. So we would be soaking it first of all in ammonium acetate, and that would basically remove within a few hours the lead carbonate. In order to remove any residue of ammonium acetate that might be left on the lead, we would then rinse it quickly for a short time period. Just rinse it in a bath of a very dilute solution of hydrochloric acid. If there are any corrosion left at that stage, then we would remove that mechanically, either very likely with a glass bristle brush. After that, we do as we would with the iron. Coming over here now, we have copper or copper material. We have been soaking this copper in a substance we prepare in the lab, which we call alkaline Rochelle salt. The alkaline Rochelle salt will remove from it largely what we call bronze disease. So we soak it in the solution. The chemical will dissolve the bronze disease. After that has been dissolved, then we would rinse in, for example, a dilute solution of sulfuric acid to remove any slight impurities or corrosion product that might be left there. After that, we will, as we do with the other metals, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were well informed by the information we've imparted today, and you're welcome to join us at any time, particularly at our heritage sites. And when you see our heritage sites, you see the artifacts that are there, you will appreciate to a greater extent the effort that has gone into its preservation.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you are online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. You may also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.